I thought I had it then. I thought, great, that's just set up really nicely, but no, it's not. My hand is gonna, oh, my hand is hurting so much. Oh, and the neighbours are bad, why can't they just go? They're always there. They've had building works solidly for over a year, and there's just always someone there, and it's always noisy. It's a pain in the ass. I was gonna say it sounds like the neighbours are going. But they keep starting the car and stopping it. Where does that massive dimple come from? I never used to have dimples. You wouldn't think I was in my 40s, would you? I act like a 17-year-old. I don't know if that's good or bad though. Because it means I haven't become old and dull, I guess. I mentioned mental health earlier. Mental health is what I've been focusing on the past month. I've been ranting around various places around the garden, so I'll try and string it together to make sense, I promise. Mental health, yes. As I said, a lot of spirituality and soul connection work is healing your past, memories, etc, etc, but the mental health is something that's often overlooked. The mental health is what often appears on these paths. That's your depression, especially depression. Don't just work on the twin flame, the soul connection side of things. Don't just heal your past. You must focus on depression is an effect. Mental health that is in balance is an effect. So you do need to work on what is causing that imbalance. Unless it's... This is where I've started to draw a line. There's mental health. There's mental illness, which would be depression. And then there's your state of mental health. Though I separate that out into illness and traits. Like for me, I went into depression in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, and that developed because I had generalised anxiety and chronic pain with that, and I also, just before that, I'd started to develop agoraphobia. That was when I was in my mid to late teens. So I spent most of my life only leaving the house to go to the dentist, the doctors, or to work. Work, I could only manage 4 hours a day, and even that, in the end, that wore me down and made me so ill I had to leave work anyway. So that obviously is a lifelong serious mental issue. These are the kind of things I mean about the mental health, these long issues that carry on over the years. So I've been seeing to that recently. I've already dealt with most of the depression. Generalised anxiety disorder, it can be dealt with along with the chronic pain, definitely can be dealt with. Depression, it's a state that comes on, therefore as far as I'm concerned it's a state that can be removed as well. The agoraphobia I have been working on. I have started exposure therapy. The nurse tried to persuade me to do CBT, which I said I'd never try because I just can't get my head around that. I'm just like, no. But exposure therapy, I was like, no. I tried that for I tried exposure therapy going to work for 7 years and it never did anything. So like things buzzing around me, it didn't do anything. And it was so bad that I put up with it for so long that that's what made me crash. So, hence I spent 10 years unemployed with mental health issues. So I was stuck in that for many years, a good 10 years before I actually started to pull myself out of it. And it's been a good, I'd say it's been 4 or 5 years now since I was able to remove the depression Most of it comes back every now and then, but that's because I'm not fully healed, so that's understandable. You have to be realistic. Then, so generalised anxiety is gone. Depression is mainly gone. It's only mild and it comes back every now and then. It's been coming back more recently because I've actually been dealing with this. It's nice and easier just to say, I can't change that, just accept the way it is. And that does actually give you a mental health improvement. Unfortunately, your situation doesn't improve, and a lot of the times the situation needs to improve because that's what kind of triggered the depression to start with, because that wasn't in alignment with you. But when you align to the situation that gives you the depression, yeah, the depression can leave, but you're never satisfied. You're always wanting and desiring that bit more, and then you start to feel stuck, frustrated, and that sends you down a whole new avenue. So it's not worth swapping one for the other. So the past 4 years I've been free of all that. All I've had is the mild depression and the agoraphobia. So I finally decided it's time that I dealt with that. So I spoke to the mental nurse. I'm going to get sunburn if I'm not careful. There we go. What was I saying? This is a perfect example of where I was going to go with it, actually. So I said to them, when I explained my situation to the mental health nurse, she said, oh, it sounds like bullying from when you were at school. Just do some CBT and some exposure therapy. I was just like, no. I rang the nurse because I knew, gut feeling, and from actually living my life and having the experience of living the life, which is knowledge and experience that any nurse will never have. I said to her, before you go down that route, I knew that there was something else. I knew that something else was behind all of it. All of the anxiety, the depression, the agoraphobia, even the bullying at school and everything else. And I said to her, I know that there is something else going on here. I don't want to just be given, you know, I didn't say it in words, but I said to myself when I ring up, I'm not going to go down the CBT route and that, because I know it's not that. So I said to her, I know there is something else. So when I explained to her that I am a neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner, I said to her, I already know about all that with CBT. I know it's not the same as CBT, but I've already been through all my beliefs and my thoughts, and I've changed all that. And I said, negative thinking is not everything. Negative thinking is an effect of something in the mind. Negative thinking is not the problem. Because I don't sit at home going, oh my God, I'm going to go out. Oh God, this is going to happen. I don't do that anymore. And even if I go, yeah, let's go, it's still, something was still happening. So I knew it wasn't that. So I started to experiment. I walked out down the road, and it was just down the road to the shop. It's not 5 minutes. I went with my mother because unless someone's with me, I get one of these attacks, as I called them. And I went down the road, and sure enough, I could feel it starting. And I stopped to her and looked at her, and I said, this isn't fear. This isn't anxiety. There is no fear here at all. And I said to her, this isn't agoraphobia. This isn't anxiety. This is something else. And it's something that I felt before when I went out. And I used to go, I can feel it. And the fear and the anxiety came about because I spent my whole life having this without knowing what it was. And I said to her, oh, it's not fear, it's something else. So when I went to the nurse, I said, it's not fear, it's not anxiety, it's something else. So I said to her, well, first of all, I looked up what else it could be. And I've spoken to, I don't know, how do I say it? Do I want to say it? This is my struggle now. This is the new thing that I'm dealing with. This was only, when did this happen? Where are we now? We're in September. This was only in July this happened. I knew this was something else. I spent, as I said, I'm in my early 40s now, and I've spent my whole life with this thing. And I've been to the doctors, I've seen people about it, and not one of them has, even all the way through school, when the teachers knew I had issues learning things, but nothing was ever said. But not one of them ever said to me or to my parents when I was younger, not one of them ever said, have you ever thought about having your kid tested for ADHD or autism? Not one of them ever said that, and I feel so let down. I spoke to the district nurse and I said, can it be autism? And she said, and I put my foot down and said, I want to be assessed for it because I know that this is something else. And she gave in, and I had to do an online test to see if I was worthy to be sent for assessment. Cause I'll get to that in a minute. And I did the assessment, and I did the ADHD assessment because it was there. And it came back, and I was absolutely blown away. It came back as, well, that was it. Level 1 is significant challenges reported, 2 was many challenges, 4 was some challenge, 3 was some challenges, and 4 was no challenges. I had a 1 in combined type ADHD, and I was just absolutely blown away. That's why I have had such a struggle in getting anything done and moving my life forward, because I've been trying to deal with living my life with this without knowing what it was. And that's why I felt my whole life that I've never been good enough, that I can't do these things that people do and take for granted. And I did the autism test, and that came back, I think that came back as a 3, which was what I was expecting. But the ADHD ones blew me away. That's why I struggle with making regular videos and articles for the website. Sometimes I can just do it, and I do a lot, and then suddenly I just don't do any for ages. So I'm now on the waiting list to get them assessed, and that is a mental health. That is that one little bit that I knew was there with my mental health that I knew I had to sort out. I knew there was something else. I was at the point where my only options are that I am either A, broken, or what was the other one? A, broken, or B, crazy. Because everyone's telling me I'm fine, I should be able to do this, I should be able to do that. Well, I can't, so either I'm broken or I'm crazy and there seems to be something wrong but there isn't. And I took the test, and I already had an appointment arranged with another nurse to speak to her about it. And I said to her, the test says it's not a diagnosis. And she said, well, the actual assessment diagnosis won't come for another 2 to 3 years. When I said that, I just said, oh, I actually said that on the phone, OMG, 2 to 3 years. I've been waiting 40 years, what's another 3? It's just put my life up for the past 40 years, so I'm sure I can wait another 2, another 3, while I'm trying to make the changes. Having that assessment earlier would help. So I can't, unless I can find £2,000 plus from nowhere for a private assessment, I have to wait 2 to 3 years. It's silly really, because some of these places that charge 2,000 plus they can actually do the assessment for the NHS, which is the one with the waiting list. Yeah, if you pay them privately, they can do it in a matter of weeks. That's not right to me, because if they can see NHS people, you have to, apparently you have to request it directly to go to one of these other places and have them do it on the NHS. If they can do it, why aren't the NHS sending more to them to get through the backlog? It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, I'm ranting now, so I'll stop with that. So yeah, it's just back to me doing the work myself, because that's all I've done for the past 10 years. And even my doctor said that she was absolutely amazed at how far I'd gotten by myself. I was like, well, NHS hasn't been any use. So that's what I'm dealing with now. And of course that answered when I go out and have one of my attacks. It's a sensory overload. It's the sense, that's why I feel things coming in and bearing down on me. That's why I feel like, oh, some things, it's the light, it's especially in that sense, it's the heat, and it's the sound from the traffic. All of that was overwhelming me. That's what's causing it. So all I can do now I've found that out, I feel that I can now go out and do my exposure therapy, because the agoraphobia is because I was getting these attacks without realising what they were, which of course made them even worse. But now I can go out with my trusty cap, my sunglasses. I've got earphones, but they don't cancel out enough noise, so I'm going to have to buy some noise cancelling earbuds because I can't stand headphones. And I am going to have to put them on and go out to limit me having any more overwhelms, and then I feel like I can successfully do the exposure therapy. Because sometimes I've gone out, like once I went out to the beach and it was an overcast day and there was like 5 people on the beach, and I was walking down the beach going, why do I feel okay? Why isn't there any, do you know what I mean? It never made sense. Sometimes it would trigger, sometimes it wouldn't, and this is why. So it's really good to be able to have those answers finally, though I feel a bit let down because it shouldn't have been up to me to take care of all this. That's what the NHS is kind of for. And any help I can get from them now, I need the assessment for before I can get anything. So I'm stuck trying to sort this out myself. However, once I've got this agoraphobia sorted, because my life has more or less been on hold since I was in my mid-20s, I haven't really progressed in life at all because I haven't been able to. Oh, I'm trying to, again, move it forward, but now I know what I'm working with. Hopefully that will be more possible. So as I said, most of my spiritual work, that's just been an afterthought, and I've been focusing directly on this because for me now it's all about the physical and the life and dealing with these last few things, which I knew it's always been there, and it was bugging me because I always knew it was something that I couldn't understand, but now I can understand it. I know what it is. I'm a bit limited on what I can do, but there is at least some things I can do. So yeah, that is why mental health and seeing to that is so important when you're on a spiritual path, when you're on a twin flame path. You can't ignore it. It's not about what gets in the way of the spiritual path, it's about your own state. That is what the twin flame journey, the spiritual journey, that is what it's all about, changing your state. And that includes the mental and the emotional state. Thankfully, my emotional state is good now. I don't have any more problems there. I still get the odd anxiety and the frustration, but that's because I'm trying to deal with all these old challenges. But that's fine, I'm allowing that, it's understandable. And as far as I'm concerned, after I get rid of this agoraphobia, that's going to be on the mental as well. That I'm looking forward to. Though I'm so not used to going out that I don't, for a long time I had no desire to go out. Even now, I started my exposure therapy just walking down the road, waiting a minute and coming back. That's what the nurse said to do. She said, take 6 steps, take a few breaths, come back. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it literally. Now, the amazing thing was that when I started doing that, my thought was, oh, what if something goes wrong? What if I have an attack? What if, as I said, I've dealt with them. My thoughts were, what, I'm supposed to just stand there in the middle of the street for a few seconds, turn around and walk back? What will that look like? Oh, but from that I realised I felt I needed a purpose, a good enough reason to go out. Because through my years of trying to go outside and having attacks, I had subconsciously learned that I will get punished if I go outside. So for me, it's not agoraphobia, exposure therapy as such. It's bringing up all these new subconscious things. Now all the anxiety and that's out of the way, I can see these things. And it's learning, I can stand here. I am allowed to stand here. I don't need a reason to stand right here, apart from the fact that I want to stand right here. You know, that kind of thing. Because that's my problem now. It's the fact that I've learned that if I try, I'll get punished for it. And me thinking, what will that look like? It's because I used to go out and I used to act. I used to be that afraid, that anxious, and there was, of course, how that would look. But I haven't had that for such a long time now. That's why I knew it couldn't be agoraphobia. I've been working for the past 4 years as if it's agoraphobia. And it just never gelled. It never seemed to fit. So this is more of a video on my mental health. I've never put that on this video before really, but it's an important part of the spiritual journey, of the twin flame journey. It can't be dismissed because it's not spiritual or it's nothing to do with whoever they are. This is what it's about. Because I deserve that life that I am capable of. I know I'm never going to be fully capable of doing everything I wanted, of living the life I wanted, of being how I wanted. If that was possible, I would already be that. But ADHD and autism, the nurse said, I said to her, this paper isn't a diagnosis. She said, look, I know the test, I know the system. If that is referring you, it is most likely that you have those things. It's a working diagnosis. We just need to confirm it, but that's what it is. Oh, there it kicks in again. For God's sake. At least I know why this happens now. That was it. I know I won't be able to do and be the way other people are. I won't be able to live the life exactly how I want. There will always be extra challenges, it'll always be a lot slower, but at least I know why now. And I know it can't be cured, but I've already done one hell of a lot to change my life and make things better, even with them, so that is definitely possible, and I'm really proud of myself for managing it all by myself. Though I need to accept that there are lots of things I won't be able to do or be and do the same way that others will. And it's going to make things harder. It's more of a challenge. It's going to take longer. And all I seem to have been doing over the past several years is getting ideas, and then it just goes. Kind of like me trying to keep a track of what it is I'm talking about. And it just struck again. Yeah, the mental health side isn't commonly spoken about in the... It's spoken about more in the spirituality aspect, but the twin flame aspect, I have rarely seen it mentioned. Past doing all your healing and your inner work, I've never really seen the proper actual mental health dimension. This is why I say to people, when they're coming in new to spirituality or to Twin Flames, I say to them, unless you've got your mental and emotional health in a somewhat stable manner, don't even try to do any of those things, because it's like just trying to build a house on sand, and until you get foundations in, whatever you build is just going to be shaky, and it's going to be based on that shifting sand, and it's just going to make things worse. You can't approach these things with that instability, especially with the more serious mental health issues. And I'm talking of things like bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and psychosis, all that kind of thing. I know a lot of people say that's just people that are awakening. No, it's not. If it was people that were awakening, then everyone that was awakening would have those things, and they don't. I'm sure there are lots of people out there that awaken, they go through their ascension, they go through their journey, and none of them have anything like that. That is a purely mental issue. And people go, oh, everything's based on energy. Yes, it is energy, but it's still mental energy. It's still the mental energy that we know of as the three-dimensional physical mental. It doesn't change that. It's still a mental health issue and needs to be addressed as a mental health issue. Don't try and bypass it as something spiritual, because it's not. I've seen so many people do that, and it just makes me cringe, because people are just not in states so they can deal with it. People don't understand just what these things mean. They think it's cool, they think it's trendy, they think it's going to be awesome, they think it's going to deal with their problems, they think they're going to have to not worry and think about things, but really it all comes down to mental and emotional health. So please make sure you see to that.